Darkness settles around fragile shelters as distant growls echo and sleeping. Children breathe unaware nearby. One mistake tonight could erase a family line long before sunrise returns again, nearby quietly. This documentary examines how prehistoric families protected sleeping children from predators during the dangerous hours. It explores nighttime routines, campsites, fire use, and group behavior shaped by constant threat. Understanding these choices reveals how ordinary people kept offspring alive long before cities existed anywhere. The story matters because survival depended on small decisions repeated nightly across generations together patiently. What follows stays grounded in evidence while acknowledging uncertainty where traces remain incomplete today silently. Hundreds of years ago, families slept close, forming tight circles that reduced surprise attacks overnight. Fire burned through darkness, creating light, warmth, and smoke that discouraged many stalking animals nearby. Adults positioned themselves between children and forest edges, listening for movement. Beyond flames nearby patiently. Sleep remained, shallow with frequent waking because silence often signaled approaching. Danger from predators outside. Campsites were chosen carefully, using open ground water, access and visibility advantages. During night hours, children slept beside parents, siblings, and elders, creating shared warmth and collective awareness through darkness. Some groups used thorny branches or simple barriers to limit animal approach paths around shelters. Dogs may have assisted later, though evidence varies and timelines remain debated among researchers today. Weather influenced protection strategies, since wind, rain, or cold altered sound and visibility at night. During storms, families huddled closer, accepting discomfort to maintain safety and vigilance through long nights. Predator pressure differed by region, with big cats, wolves, bears, and hyenas posing risks nearby. Knowledge passed through observation as children learned danger patterns before understanding words clearly, fully verbally. Long before cities existed, nights shaped family bonds through shared fear, responsibility, and trust together. Protection was never perfect, and losses occurred, leaving marks visible within archaeological records today still. Yet these practices improved odds enough for communities to persist across generations. Despite constant danger, night after night, families repeated routines until survival behaviors became instinctive through lived experience alone. Such patterns explain how humanity endured predators without walls, weapons, or organized defenses during prehistory. By examining sleep protection, we see resilience built quietly within ordinary prehistoric households over time. These moments reveal survival depended less on heroism and more on careful togetherness each night. The night world demanded attention, patience, and sacrifice from every watching parent near sleeping children. Families organized sleeping positions based on age, strength, and awareness rather than comfort alone nightly. Adults with sharp hearing slept outward while children remained protected within the group at night. Elders sometimes stayed awake longer, serving as early warning listeners through darkness for everyone nearby. Fire maintenance mattered because fading embers invited curious predators closer to camps during silent hours. Fuel was gathered before dusk, ensuring flames lasted through the most dangerous hours overnight periods. Sleeping near rock faces or water edges reduced approach directions predators could use at night. Open ground allowed earlier detection, though it exposed families to wind and cold conditions overnight. Groups balanced risk, choosing locations that minimized worst threats, rather than eliminating danger completely ever. Night sounds carried, meaning with snapping twigs or silence triggering immediate alertness among adults nearby. Parents learned to recognize animal movement patterns, distinguishing routine noises from approaching threats during darkness. Children absorb this awareness gradually through proximity, not instruction lectures or explanations spoken at night. Physical closeness offered warmth, reassurance, and faster response if danger suddenly appeared during sleeping hours. Simple bedding of hides, grasses, or leaves kept bodies together, and movement limited at night. Limited movement reduced noise, preventing accidental signals that could attract predators nearby during vulnerable sleep. Infants were especially guarded, since crying risked drawing attention from hunters. Outside during darkness hours, caregivers responded quickly, soothing sounds before they traveled beyond firelight. Boundaries into surrounding darkness areas Some evidence suggests shared childcare, allowing exhausted adults brief rest without abandoning vigilance entirely ever. Risk management depended on cooperation, trust, and learned habits, reinforced every night through lived experience. These habits varied by landscape, prey, availability, and predator, species sharing territories, with humans nearby. Despite variation, the core goal remained identical, keeping children alive until morning arrived again safely. Morning survival validated night efforts, reinforcing behaviors that favored cautious protection. Across families, generations continually, archaeological traces are subtle, requiring careful interpretation, rather than dramatic conclusions about nightly protection practices. Still, consistent patterns support these reconstructions across multiple regions worldwide from deep prehistory contexts available. Understanding these nights humanizes prehistory, showing parents faced fears much like ours while protecting children. Such continuity reminds us survival hinged on care, not dominance, over nature during vulnerable sleep. Night protection shaped social bonds, teaching cooperation long before formal societies emerged anywhere on Earth. These quiet strategies accumulated, enabling human populations to grow despite constant predation during early millennia. Over time, families refined night routines, responding to losses, lessons, and environmental pressures around camps. Predators adapted too, forcing humans to stay flexible rather than relying on fixed solutions nightly. Shared stories likely passed warnings, though spoken language evidence remains difficult to trace directly today. Body positioning during sleep limited blind spots and allowed faster reaction from resting adults nearby. Tools near sleeping areas served defensive purposes, even if rarely used, against animals directly outside. Stone tools, firebrands, and sharpened sticks offered last defense when predators breached boundaries. Nearby camps, evidence shows few fortifications, suggesting avoidance and awareness mattered more than confrontation alone during nights. Sleeping schedules may have staggered, allowing some adults to remain semi-awake overnight for safety. This vigilance carried costs, including exhaustion, stress, and slower recovery, affecting daily survival for families. Despite fatigue, adults prioritized children, knowing future survival depended on them reaching adulthood safely eventually. Seasonal changes altered risk as migrations, droughts, or snowfall shifted predator behavior. Nearby around camps, families adapted by moving camps, adjusting fires and modifying sleep groupings accordingly through long experience. Children gradually learned cues, understanding danger through observation, rather than direct instruction. Over many nights, this learning process reduced panic, improved coordination, and strengthened group response. Under threat during darkness, archaeology captures fragments through hearth placement, bone remains, and site organization patterns across ancient camps. Interpretation remains cautious because nightly behavior leaves minimal durable physical traces behind for researchers today. Still, combined evidence builds a picture of persistent, careful protection during vulnerable hours for children. These practices illustrate parenting under pressure, without modern tools, medicine, or infrastructure available anywhere then. They also reveal emotional investment, patience, and fear shaping everyday decisions across family groups nightly. Prehistoric nights demanded responsibilities shared across ages, reinforcing collective survival instincts through repeated exposure together. Children sleeping safely represented hope, continuity, and meaning within uncertain environments faced by families daily. Protecting them justified vigilance, sacrifice, and endurance despite overwhelming natural risks. Present each night outside. Such nights repeated endlessly, shaping human resilience long before written memory preserved. Stories existed anywhere. Understanding these patterns deepens respect for ordinary survival efforts in deep time across generations worldwide. It reminds us humanity advanced through care, cooperation, and attention. During darkness, together against danger, these quiet nights laid foundations for communities that would eventually thrive beyond constant predation. Pressures. As humans spread into new regions, night protection strategies diversified with unfamiliar predators present. Groups entering colder climates relied more on enclosed shelters, reducing exposure during long dark seasons. In warmer regions, airflow mattered, balancing smoke warmth and visibility against insects and animals nearby. Fire use evolved, improving control and predictability through experience, rather than sudden innovation events. Children sleeping through nights enabled adults to function during demanding days of foraging travel. Survival success depended on cumulative learning, not single dramatic moments or heroic encounters alone. Each generation inherited routines refined quietly through success, failure, and adaptation across landscapes. These patterns underline how parenting shaped evolutionary outcomes alongside hunting, tool-making, and cooperation. Keeping children alive required emotional restraint, patience, and constant alertness despite exhaustion and fear. Night after night, adults accepted risk knowing sleep could never be fully safe. This reality forged trust within families because survival depended on others staying watchful always. Archaeology cannot capture fear, but traces suggest repeated occupation reflecting confidence in chosen camps. Confidence came not from safety, but from practiced responses to predictable dangers nearby nightly. Such responses illustrate intelligence, expressed through behavior, rather than abstract planning language or symbols. They reveal humanity survived predators not by dominance, but by attentiveness and shared responsibility. Understanding this reframes prehistory as domestic endurance rather than endless struggle and violence. It highlights the quiet labor of care sustaining populations across vast stretches of time. These families were not primitive thinkers, but careful observers, responding realistically to their world. Their nights teach survival emerges from routine, discipline, and cooperation under pressure. If you value learning through evidence and reflection, consider subscribing for future explorations of deep history. Share your thoughts and comments to continue thoughtful discussion about how humanity endured its earliest nights.